Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Morning Dream. So today I want to talk about if you've had a dream about a baby or a child. Now, first of all, of course, I want to say it really depends, right, on what your experience with babies and children are, what these dreams might be revealing for you or about you. If you are someone who's had a lot of children, or you are a mother or a father, it's going to be potentially a different dream for you than if you don't have any children, or even if you've had a lot of experience with children. That's going to be a slightly different thing than if you've never really had much experience with children at all. But regardless of your personal situation with children or babies, I do always like to impart to people when they bring me dreams about babies or children that it is worthwhile typically to consider that the baby or the child in the dream represents a part of you, and not just a part of you, but a very important part of you. The part of you that is innocent, the part of you that is pure, the part of you that is playful and curious and, coming from this really innocent, divine place. You can think of it as your inner child. You can think of it as your soul. You can think of it as the most receptive, deep, sort of eternal, connected aspect of who you are. So it's not just a part of you, it's a very important part of you. It is really the part of you that we want to have in the world, to feel like it is safe to be that vulnerable self, to be that receptive self, to be that self that is so just contained within itself that it's just purely who it is, and it's not concerned with any of the things that the ego or the mind might want to make things about. So, if you have a baby or a child in your dream, it's important, or I think it's just always worthwhile, again, to ask yourself, could this be my soul? Or what does it feel like? What does it bring up to consider that the baby or the child in this dream is actually a representation of my soul, of my inner child, of my deepest self, of my truest self? I like to give a lot of different language because I know different words can resonate in a lot of different ways. But I really just want to hit upon if you have any sense that there is a piece of you that is more true, more aligned, more, in that purity of your soul. And when I say purity, I don't mean like perfection, right? A child isn't perfect in everything that they do. In fact, the child can often be very annoying or do things that we don't expect or can't control very easily. The child might have a lot of desires or things that are out of line with what we think they should want, or, all of these things. But there's a purity in there, even if they're not always doing the right thing, because we know the child doesn't know better and is just being itself. And that, again, is the part of us that can do that, right? Can just be in itself, making mistakes, trying to learn, being curious, being open, being receptive, being like a child, right? And so when we see in a dream that we're relating to a child, or we might have feelings about the child, first thing a lot of times will come up is the sense of responsibility for the child. Now, this makes sense. You are the adult, usually in the dream, and the child is younger, and we feel like we need to take care of the child, that the child is not okay, that the child is our responsibility. We might feel overwhelmed by that responsibility. We might feel like we can't do it, and then we have all of these mixed feelings potentially about the child in the dream. So that's a situation that you have. A way to start opening up that exploration is to turn that again back to yourself. Is there a way that you feel responsible, or that the part of yourself that is curious, that is open, that wants to explore, that wants to maybe break the rules or understand what the limits or the boundaries are, or just be itself, right? Be unconcerned with, the structures of society or anything else. Do you feel like you have to be responsible for that part of yourself? Do you feel like that part of yourself is a burden in some way because it is unpredictable, or maybe overly emotional, or whatever judgments you might have about what it would be like to embody more of that child self, that inner child, that soul part of yourself in your life? So that's just one example of, okay, you might feel responsible for the child in the dream, and that's a way that you can ask yourself a question, is that really true? But I also want to bring up something that happens often in these dreams is that we feel like the child is somebody else's. So we might see a child in the dream and feel like, oh, it's this person's child. And maybe we don't like the way that person is taking care of the child, but we don't feel like there's something we can do because it's this other person's child. And I'm saying again, even in that situation in the dream where you feel like that the child is not yours, I would still ask the question and propose it to yourself to see if it resonates. Is there a way that you feel like that part of yourself, that inner child, that soul, that deeper part of you, actually belongs to somebody else? And who that someone else is in the dream can kind of shine light on that. Maybe it's a relative, maybe it's a good friend, maybe it's a partner. And I think this, of course, is something that happens, that we give away part of ourselves. We feel like other people are actually the ones who can dictate what happens to that deeper part of who we are, because we don't have the same connection to it, and we feel like it's somebody else's instead of ours. So if that resonates with you, that would be the question. And it might not, it might not. And if that's the case, we may consider it the other way. Okay, let's just say this really is this other person's child and kind of go with it from there. A last example I want to give, which can be kind of disturbing, but I've had this dream a couple of times and I've definitely heard other people have it, is dreams where the baby or the child are in extreme danger, are injured or wounded, or even in the worst case scenario, we feel that the child is dead. So I want to say, first of all, as long as you are alive and you are breathing, I don't believe it's possible for this inner child, for this soul self, for the deepest part of who you are, to be dead. I don't think that is one of the potentials that we have. Now, that's sort of a belief system, and you might have your own beliefs about the soul or about the inner child or about what can happen to it or not, in these other realms. But for my purposes, I don't actually believe that it can die. And so when we have that situation in the dream, it's not really a question of figure out how your child died or your inner child is dead and you need to do something about that. It's more a little bit more symbolic in the sense that, okay, you feel that this child is really hurt, or this child is showing you that it's carrying some deep pain or wound or a sense of isolation or separation, or a sense that you have not been paying attention to it. That can often happen in the dream where we find that it's been hurt or it's dead because we weren't paying attention to it. And that might be exactly what the dream is trying to show. And so again, not to get scared by that type of dream. Oh, my inner child, my soul is dead. Well, just pile it on, Kezia. That doesn't sound very nice. And it's not nice, but it is a reminder. It's a strong reminder, strong, evidence or feeling of, okay, there's something I really need to look at, something I need to reflect upon, because, there's this part of myself that is not feeling alive, that is not feeling whole, that is carrying a wound, carrying a stress, or is, totally disconnected potentially because of my behavior in terms of not paying attention to it. So there'd be a question of, is there a way to feel more connected? And that's really what I want to leave you with as well, because very often in these dreams with soul, with babies or children, there can often be a very strong sense of love, of connection, just of warmth. I have so many dreams I've had people share with me of just having that baby or that child just close to their chest, or something physical, where they're really feeling, wow, I love this child. I really, really love this child. I want to do whatever I can to take care of it, even though I don't even know where it came from, that type of thing. And I really, really recommend people to savor that kind of moment in the dream and really feel into the idea that this is you loving you. This is you nurturing you. This is you taking care of that deep part of you, feeling connected to it, feeling a sense of, instead of responsibility like weighing on me, like, oh, I have to take care of it, more of a sense of empowerment, or even, connection and like a good sense of responsibility. Like, I want to take care of this thing because I love it so much, that I want it to feel well and I want it to feel good. So again, feeling into that and bringing that part into you and recognizing how you can feel all that love and that connection right inside through this embodiment of this aspect of yourself, in your relationship to it. So that's what I wanted to share about babies and children. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please subscribe if you're interested in dreams and you want to learn more about starting a really fantastic dream practice. And you can learn a lot more by visiting my website, kiziavita.com.